almost had a heart attack. Good morning, everyone.
Good
All right.
morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Liz Kukla. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I'm going to read the preamble for you this morning, this May 16th, 2022. In compliance with notification requirements of the city's open meeting law and section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Please note that call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. All requests to speak on a particular matter have been considered. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Thank you. Ms. Barnes?
I'm here.
Ms. Brown?
Present.
Ms. Faith? Ms. Britt?
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. We'll be Maurice, just let us know if Ms. Faith is still having login issues or whatever. Okay, postponements and withdrawals. All
right. So what you have before you is first on the list is calendar number 22-053 regarding 1807 Auburn Avenue. Guardian City Investments proposed to change use of existing two-family residence to a two-story, three-family residence. This appeal, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, this appeal is actually, they're requesting to postpone this. The councilperson wanted to review this further with them. I apologize for the confusion here with myself. So it is, they were asking for a postponement, and usually we give about 30 days. Are we thinking the same? 30 days would be around June 13th or June 13th or June 27th, because we are, we don't have a Monday meeting on the June 20th.
Yeah, give them the, would you say the 20 what?
The 13th. Actually, Madam Chair, the 13th works better for us, if you don't mind.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. And so then also, Madam Chair, the calendar number 22-028 stated that they would like to withdraw this case, and this is regarding 10205 Ostin Avenue. Just NIC LLC proposed to change the use from a two-family to a three-family. This case has been withdrawn at the request of the applicant. And that's all that I have for you this morning regarding postponements and withdrawals.
All right, thank you. And this is the case that's been postponed, correct? All right, so we're at 168th Street.
I do not see any council people present today.
That's what I was just looking through to see. Okay. All right, we'll start with this one. Since Ms. Faith hasn't come in yet.
I am
you're
present.
Oh, there she is.
I am
Okay,
present,
good.
Madam Chair. And
right,
we're beginning
thank
with, all right. Starting with calendar number 22-055, we're at 4267 East 168th Street. Otis Buchanan, owner, proposes to erect an L-shaped garage addition attached to an existing single-family residence in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record. And to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Good morning. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do. State your name and your address, please. Is Mr. Buchanan here?
You're muted, Mr. Buchanan.
Okay, can you hear me?
There we
now?
go.
Okay.
Yes, we can, sir.
Sir, we need you to raise your hand, state I do, and state your name and address, please.
I do. Otis Buchanan, 4267 East 168th Place.
Anyone else for this case?
Nope, just me.
Yes. Well, it looks like we have Dolores McCollum with her hand raised.
Yes, my name is Dolores McCollum. My address is 4266 East 178th Place. And I was sent a letter, so that's why I'm here. And yes, I do.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our Records Administration Office, I found that in October of 1968, a permit was issued to erect a single-family home with attached garage. I did find that there's one variance on file for this case, for this address in calendar 14-160, and this was in 2014. A variance was granted to erect a 12 by 39 L-shaped one-story addition, but ultimately that the variance rights expired, and I found that the permit was actually void in our Acela system. Backing up to the variance, there were no conditions on that variance. And that's what I have for you this morning, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And what's the date on that list that it expired?
6/19/2014.
Okay. Okay, legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the required interior side yard, distance from a neighboring house, and required rear yard regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Buchanan, tell us what you like to do.
As you can see in the picture, there's a truck and two trucks and a trailer in my driveway. I want to extend that one side over and the existing garage extended back. The reason why the work wasn't done when I originally got the permit, because the contractor took half my money and left, and I got disgusted. Now I'm back trying to get it again with a different contractor.
Hope you have a better one this time.
I hope I do.
Maurice, can you just blow that up a little bit so we can see the dimensions there? So it looks like Mr. Buchanan,
Sure.
just the existing garage you already have, you're just trying to extend it out more.
Out more and further towards the backyard.
Yeah, okay. I see that. All right. Okay, Ms. McCollum, you had something you wanted to say?
My only question is how that would impact my property. I'm not real good at understanding these visuals and applying them. My property is behind his property on East 170th Place.
From what it looks like to me, his garage would be nowhere near the property line, so it should not affect your property at all, ma'am.
Okay, that was my only concern.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So if I don't have any other concern, do I need to stay on?
You do not, unless you just want to hang out with us for the morning.
I'll take a rain check. Thank you.
Okay, it is raining, so all right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, good. So we got what the visuals are going to be here. Okay, Maurice, are you representing city planning for this?
I am. Good morning, Madam Chair. So the first variance, they're simply requesting a 5-foot side yard instead of the 10-foot side yard, which is required in a one-family district. We have no issue with this. There will still be 15 feet between the edge of this gentleman's garage, new garage, and the house next door. We have not heard anything from the neighbors. We would have considered that if the neighbors had objected to this, but we have received nothing. Also, the second variance is just a small change to the required rear yard, which is a variance we commonly grant. They're only asking for 4 feet of relief, so we support these variances.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think this is pretty clear cut. You know, he did get the variance a few years ago, and due to unseen circumstances, couldn't complete the project. So I'll open it up to my board for any questions, comments, or a motion.
Madam Chair, I think the construction drawings are pretty self-explanatory. As you noted, he's already been before BZA for a previous variance that was granted, and due to his unfortunate circumstances with the contractor, he wasn't able to proceed with this project. City planning is in support, so I think we can go ahead and I move that we grant these variances for Mr. Buchanan on calendar number 22-055.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Member Brown, I second.
Ms. Brown with the second. Go ahead, call the roll, please.
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Faith,
Unmuted, I say yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
Calendar 22-055 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and after that, we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you.
All right, good luck, Mr. Buchanan.
Thank you.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you all.
All right, I may need to be reminded to unmute myself apparently this morning. So moving on to calendar number 22-057, we're at 3693 Warren Road. Matthew Jankowski, owner, proposes to erect 102 linear feet of 6-foot high wooden fence in a B1 two-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record. And to Ms. Brown.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do, state your name and your address.
I do. Matthew Jankowski, 3693 Warren Road, Cleveland, Ohio, 44111.
Anyone else for this case? Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. I wasn't able to find anything in our records administration office, and there are no variances on file in the more recent history in our Acela system. I found that in 2003, a permit was applied for to install approximately 80 linear feet of 4-foot high wooden fence. The status on that is closed. And then, Madam Chair, in 2007, a permit was issued to re-roof the property. That's all that I have.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the fencing regulation of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by the other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Jankowski, tell us what you'd like to do.
Essentially, we just want to we're going to replace the fence that's existing. We wanted to move it 4 feet closer to the street, and go all the way to 6 foot for privacy fence.
Could you go explain a little deeper about what you mean by all the way to the street?
Oh, it's currently the original was about 8 feet from the sidewalk, and I just wanted to go about half the distance and go 4 feet farther out towards the street there.
Towards the street.
Can you blow that one up?
Yeah, I'm having a hard
please?
time figuring out where this is.
Yeah, towards so I want to go move 4 feet closer towards the white truck there.
Okay, so your existing is kind of right where the blue tarp is in the front.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And you want to pull that out 4 more feet?
Yes, and then on the right corner, that right corner post will stay there, and it'll it'll be an angle to the 4 foot for the rest of the way.
Okay. All right, Maurice, this doesn't seem like a site issue because the driveway's on either side.
Right.
We normally have issue with here.
So I actually, when I was out looking and taking pictures, I actually met Mr. Jankowski and his wife, and we talked about the issue here. And as you know, we usually ask applicants that are doing something like this to cut the corner here for visibility purposes. And I talked to them, and I believe they agreed that they would be willing to cut that corner to allow the visibility for backing out. And they're also, as you can see from the drawing, they're also cutting the other corner for their neighbor behind them as well.
Yeah, I saw that angle, so I was just a little confused about the front part. Okay. All right. And Mr. Jankowski, you're okay with angling that corner there in the front?
Yeah, so essentially what I asked was if in that instance to just leave that other corner that's against my driveway, like I'll end the fence there and then angle it to the next post.
Yeah.
And that way it'll just be kind of like 2 angles at each end, and then the about I think 16 feet or so in the middle there.
Yep.
I
got it now.
And we would support that.
Okay, great.
And that is what we always ask for that with these side yards, corner side yards, as you know.
And also, I mean, just to throw it out there, in this instance, that red tree that's in the corner will be gone, and that's actually what's probably the biggest impediment to visual right now. There's a Japanese maple right in the corner there. We call it because it's just huge, and that's going to be going away.
Oh yeah, I see that. Okay. Maurice, did you take a picture of your car too while you were there?
Well, not my car, but the city's car.
I know. All right, board, I'll open up to you. Questions, comments, a motion?
Madam Chair, we've had testimony from Mr. Jankowski with his intent to angle the 2 front corners of the fence and remove the Japanese maple so that there's better sight lines. And given that this is a corner lot and on a cul-de-sac, I think no one really has any problems with this, and he's agreed to make the modifications on the angles. So, and city planning supports. And you know, makes a very official looking photograph with the car in the picture there too. So I move that we go ahead and approve the variances for calendar number 22-057.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Member Brown, I second.
Ms. Brown with the second. Go ahead, call the roll, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And are we waiting for a revised drawing on this? Before ratification?
Yeah,
or-
yeah, if we made that a condition, yes, we will wait.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Liz.
Ms. Barnes,
Ms. Barnes, yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Faith,
Yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
Calendar 22-057 is granted conditionally. We will hold ratification until we receive that updated drawing. Once we receive that updated drawing, we will ratify it the following Monday, and then we will send the applicant a letter.
Great. So, Mr. Jankowski, just make sure you get the drawing updated on what you're going to do with those corners to Ms. Kukla, and then you'll be okay.
Okay, and then how soon would I be able to get that done?
Well, if you get it to her this week, we can ratify it next Monday. So we ratify every Monday. So you get it in the week in before that Monday, you'll be fine. So try to get it to her this week if you can.
Okay, sounds good.
All
And the
right.
sooner the better, because we do not have a quorum on May 30th, so we will not be having a hearing that day. So
Okay.
the next date would be the first week in June.
All right, so I will get that in this week then.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Uh,
All right. Next case.
All right, moving right along, I believe to calendar number, yes, calendar number 22-061. This is at 10510 Clifton Boulevard. Lee and Aniko Mersk, owners, propose to erect 40 linear feet of 6-foot tall aluminum fence in an A11 family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinance as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. To Ms. Brown.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, then state your name and address, please.
Aniko Mersek, 10510 Clifton Boulevard, Cleveland, Ohio 44102. I do.
I didn't hear that.
Oh,
You're cutting in and out.
sorry. I do. Mersek, 10510 Clifton.
Okay, I heard you that time, but you were breaking up. So I don't know if it's going to be an issue with you explaining this case or not. But okay, go ahead. History of the property, please, Ms. Kukla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. I wasn't able to find any records in our records administration office. There are no variances on file, and in a more recent history in our Acela system, I found that in 2019, a permit was issued to re-roof the property. And that's all that I have for you this morning.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from fencing regulation of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. And I just realized I moved too fast earlier. Is there anybody else for this case other than the Mersiks? Okay. All right. So between you two, whoever's going to be the spokesperson, go ahead and tell us what you want to do with this fence. Oh, great drawing. Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair or Madam Chair. Basically, we're trying to redo the fencing around our backyard. and we're trying to extend the side fencing on our east side up along the driveway. From most of that distance, the fencing is actually 6 feet from our neighbor's house, 6 feet or greater. There's just one small section where, by our measurements from the existing fence for our neighbors, it would be about 4.5 feet from their bay window and chimney. And the variance we're requesting is to allow for 6-foot fencing in that section, that 29-foot section. The next slide actually, that gives a slightly more detailed look. So all of the fencing we're requesting would stay on our side of the property line. The reason we're doing this 6-foot fencing, as far as that legal, the legal considerations, just for added security for the house. I'm an intelligence officer in the Marine Corps, so I tend to travel quite a bit, leaving my wife and children home alone. So any extra security would help just alleviate concerns for our family. And we have, with our original submission, we did include some police reports. We've had a couple break-ins in the past, but with 6-foot fencing, I don't see anybody scaling 6-foot fencing. And it's also ornamental. It would not be privacy fencing, so it would not affect the view for our neighbors. And again, the distance from their house, 6 foot in for the majority of it, except for 4.5 feet from the chimney and bay.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, I do want to just also, commend, this is probably the best fence layout drawing I've seen in all of my years here at BZA. So I just want to commend you on that.
Thank you.
Maurice?
Madam Chair, I guess one question I had is, what is the distance from the fence to the edge of their landscaping ties?
I would have to check, but those landscaping ties aren't permanent parts of the house, so I didn't really factor that in. Now there should still be about a foot and a half for them to walk through it. But again, I was only going off of the house because I thought that was the legal standard.
Legally true. I was just thinking practically. We have not heard anything from the neighbors objecting to this fence. I have no objections to the extension of this fence. It's a common variance that we grant.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
That was we'll go with Ms. Kukla first, and then we'll hear from Ms. Brown. Go ahead, Liz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did receive an email from the neighbor, Mr. Karpowski. He had questions regarding where the fence began and stopped, and are the footers and fencings being installed on their own property according to parameters. He wanted to see a copy of the aluminum fence, and he wanted to know what the cost of removal, and if the appellant was going to be covering the cost of removal of the current fence. And again, his name is William Karpowski.
Yeah, a few of those questions are outside of the purview of any of us here, but Mr. Mersick, I think you should contact your neighbor just to let him know that everything you're doing is on your property and that you will not be, impeding on his property at all. Because I think the question seemed like that's just where it stems from, is he's worried about you being over in his property.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and obviously we'll have a surveyor laying out the exact property line. I think they've been there for a while, so maybe they're not sure where the property line is. But obviously they've got an existing fence on the back, and ours isn't going to be touching their existing fence. It's only on our property.
Yeah, I think if you just let him know that. Yeah, if you just let him know
sorry.
that and just kind of send him these drawings, I think that'll answer his questions.
Certainly.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Well, my question was going to be, had they spoken to their neighbor about the project?
Oh, so we preempted your question.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, to be honest, we have mentioned it in the past. I know my wife just spoke with them yesterday. I spoke with the husband. I'm trying to remember. We both traveled quite a bit for work, but I believe it was just a few months ago, and just let him know that we were intending to pursue fencing, but only on our side of the property. So they were aware of it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Madam Chair, I have a quick
Yes.
question. In our package here, our presentation package, do we have a cut sheet of the proposed fence?
Yeah, they told us it's gonna be ornamental, but I haven't seen what it's gonna look like.
Yeah.
It's gonna,
Is it gonna look like the gate there?
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
okay.
All right. All right. Typically, sir, we ask for just a piece of, a cut sheet with the manufacturer and the picture of the fencing.
Madam
Just-
Chair, we do have that in the file. They submitted a brochure.
Okay, great. All right, so that's covered. All right. If there's no other questions from my colleagues, I'll move forward, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
All right. First of all, Mr.
Madam
Marcic?
Chair, may I interrupt?
Yes. Go
Just
ahead.
1 second. I forgot to mention that the Landmarks Commission has reviewed and administratively approved this project as well, and they do not object to any of the variances. Sorry, I forgot to get that on the record.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Maurice. That's a nice addition. All right, Madam Chair. First of all, to Mr. Mercick, thank you for your service. And so we'll move on to the motion. Given testimony from city planning, and also noting that landmarks. I'm sorry, is someone else speaking?
No, go ahead.
Okay. And noting that Landmarks has approved this, and Mr. Mercick intends to have the parcel professionally surveyed. So it sounds like he's going to be sure that everything is within his property lines. So I think, given that, we can go ahead and approve this variance for calendar number 22-061.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Ms. Barnes seconded.
Ms. Barnes with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Brown? I see a thumbs up.
Yeah, I think she's
Trying to unmute. Sorry.
okay,
Yes.
there you go.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Calendar 22-061 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and after that, we will send the appellant a letter.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Good
time.
luck to you. We always like a good presentation. So thank you for those. Thank you for those lovely drawings.
Anytime.
Thank
Okay.
All
you.
right. Moving on to calendar number 22-063. This is at 2252 East 101st Street. Fairfax Renaissance Development Corporation proposes to erect a new 2-story frame single-family residence and a 2-car garage on a city-owned land bank parcel located in a B2 two-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And to Ms. Brown.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, then state your name and address.
I do. This is Alicia Memoran, Fairfax Renaissance Development Corporation, 8111 Quincy Avenue, Suite 100, Cleveland, Ohio, 44106.
I do. Krista Pisarczyk, City Architecture, 12205 Larchmere Boulevard.
Okay, I think you're still muted, Ms. Brown. Okay. All right, if that's it, we will move on to history of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. I didn't find very many records in our Records Administration Office other than in 1944. A new concrete floor was placed on a porch. There are no variances on file and nothing of note in the more recent history. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the required garage distance regulation of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
All right, thank you. Who will be the spokesperson for this case?
This is Krista. I will.
All right, Krista, go ahead and tell us about the project.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I just wanted to give you a very brief kind of context so that you can understand that this isn't just a project about a single family home. As you can see on the screen, we are located in the Fairfax neighborhood. The new home we are building is off of East 101st Street. This is being built for a woman who currently lives off of 103rd Street, just northeast of this property, but off of Wayne Court there, the future Frank Avenue extension. Next slide, please. This neighborhood has been planned for by Fairfax Renaissance. This is in their Innovation Square neighborhood. It's part of their master plan. As you can see, several projects of the 2017 plan have been implemented, or such as the Playwright Park and some of the single family home infills. We are currently working through the groundbreaking very shortly for the phase 1 mixed income apartment building in the center of the neighborhood along East 105th Street. Next slide. And also, as a part of this plan, you may be familiar with the Fairmount Properties mixed-use development that is going at the corner of Cedar and East 105th Street. And as you can see, the footprint of that development encapsulates where the future homeowner's existing home is. And so the developer has been working with that homeowner to relocate them, but make sure that they stay within the neighborhood. That has been very important to the homeowner, to the developer, to Fairfax, to all of us here. So we're just collectively working as a team to make sure the residents stay in the neighborhood that she's lived in her whole life. So here you can see this is actually, we are building 2 homes in this neighborhood. Only one of them requires a variance from you today. That is the one outlined to the bottom, 2252, the southern home of the 2. The variance we are seeking here has to do with the distance of the detached garage of this property being adjacent to the attached garage of the other home that we are working on. I think it's important to note that both of these ladies, they're neighbors now. They will be neighbors again, and they've been longtime friends. They're very cordial with one another. So we're just keeping them together. And, the issue here is just a garage to garage adjacency. One of them wanted an attached, one wanted a detached, and just wanted to demonstrate here that if we were to push the garage off of the adjacent structure, the required distance by zoning, it creates a hardship. You wouldn't be able to use it as a 2-car garage because you wouldn't be able to get in and out of kind of that second space. So that is why we've aligned it where we have on the property, because these are shallower lots than some of the typical ones that we're used to dealing with. So there's not a lot of space to maneuver behind the home. And that completes my presentation.
All right. Okay, from Alicia from Fairfax, did you want to, excuse me, my voice. Did you want to add anything else?
Nope, Krista did a wonderful job. That's basically what we're requesting the variance for. And I do also want to note we do own the properties now as well. It's under our ownership.
Okay, well, that is good to know for the record. So you did add something.
Yes.
Okay, is the city planner here, or Maurice, or are you handling that as well?
That would be myself, Madam Chair. I just would like to point out that this is actually even a smaller variance than what's stated in the record, because you're really looking at, I don't know if you could see my mouse, the corner where the mouse is to the corner where the mouse is. So it is further than 8'6" from the two structures. So it's actually even a smaller variance request than the what does it say? I think 8 feet in the write-up. So we are 100% behind the support this variance.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw that and irritated me more that they each had to come for a hearing for this. So, yeah, thank you. All right, I'll open it up to my board if you have any questions. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I have a quick question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
First, I'd like to just say congratulations to Fairfax Renaissance on advancing their master plan and this project that's been in the works for many years. And a special thank you for the care that you are offering the existing residents to make sure that they can stay in beautiful new homes. So great job. What's the width of the parcels for the new single-family homes?
I believe if you zoom in there.
54 feet 10 inches, it looks like.
Great. Thank you. I support the variance. That's it, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
All right, Madam Chair, I would echo Ms. Brown's praise of this project. This is a major master plan that has been in the works and is now coming to fruition, and is wonderful to see in the Fairfax neighborhood. And it is especially great to see the sensitivity that is being given to the existing neighbors as they are being relocated from the new construction area. It sort of sets a precedent that I hope we see citywide as new projects are being built. With that said, as city planning noted, this is a smaller variance than what it appears, and certainly is understandable that the garage needs to be moved over so that it can actually be usable in both bays by vehicles. So with that being said, Madam Chair, I move that we go ahead and approve calendar number 22-063.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Member Brown, I second.
Ms. Brown with the second. Go ahead, call the roll, please.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Bates?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Calendar 22-63 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and after that, we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you so much all for your time today.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. We appreciate the support. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Moving on, Madam Chair, calendar number 22-066. This is at 1823 Crawford Avenue. Cleveland Bricks LLC owner proposes to erect a 2-story single-family residence with attached garage in an E2 multifamily residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda, and the public record of note is number 3, which states sections 341.02 that states that city planning approval is required before issuance of permit. And to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, then state your name and your address, please.
I do, Paul Began, Began Architectural Design, 15703 Madison.
Byron Bonamici, Cleveland Bricks, 1925 St. Clair Avenue.
Anyone else? Madam Chair.
Thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. I didn't find any variances on this property or records in our Records Administration Office. And then there's nothing of note in the more recent history in our Acela system. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the accessory garage regulation of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Vegan.
Good morning, board. This is a infill project in the Huff neighborhood, Cleveland Bricks. The intent of the designs for these houses are for multi-stage living for family. Term being thrown around is age in place, but it's really more of having a house that can grow with you as you live in the neighborhood. So it is designed so that a family could be in there. It does have first floor bedrooms and restrooms. It does have an attached garage for as you age. You're not going to be able to, go out and walk across your snow covered driveway to get to the house. So there's yes, it's age in place design, but it's really kind of set up so that it's not necessarily for older people. It's so that the house can serve multiple different needs, even multi-generational family living as well too, as we're finding a lot of that happening more in the neighborhoods. Right, we have grandma living with us now and being able to accommodate multi-generational families in a single household as well. So the house design does a lot of those things. The request for the variance is really just because it's the garage is attached, right? Zoning code requires the garage to be placed in the back third of the property. I would assume at some point in time, when Ms. Kukla no longer has to say there hasn't been a change in the zoning since 1929, this will be one of the things that will be fixed to allow attached garages. But it has been seen and reviewed by Housing Design Review Subcommittee, and they have approved the design and the layout.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bonamici, is anything you want to add?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. It's a new neighborhood for us, and we're excited to be contributing to it.
All right, thank you. Maurice, is this you again? Is it Maurice Day here?
This is Maurice
PGA?
Day, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Madam Chair. Yeah, this is a good project. As Mr. Began has stated, this was reviewed and approved by the Housing Design Review Subcommittee. Their only variance, really, because we took care of the front yard setback variance, turns out that's not needed. And so the only variance is for the garage, which is actually behind the house, so it more than meets the spirit of the code. So we fully recommend support of this project.
Great. All right. Board, any questions?
Just to confirm that Mr. Bruland said that number 2 for the front yard setback is off the list. Is that correct?
That is correct. We with information with Mr. Riccardi, the zoning administrator, and he agreed that it should be removed from the list.
Right. And also, could you blow up the aerial view just so I can see the neighborhood in context?
Well, let me see. I could just go back to this one. Is that enough of an aerial view?
I just really wanted to see the major streets surrounding.
Hold on a second. I can zoom in. So it's Chester Avenue to the south.
Okay. And East 82nd. Okay. Great. Was just curious about that. Madam Chair, unless there's questions from my colleagues, I'll move ahead with a motion.
Hearing none, go ahead.
Okay, hearing none. Madam Chair, given the presentation by Mr. Began and Mr. Bonamucci from Cleveland Bricks, nice looking house, thoughtful planning with regard to multi-generational occupants and aging in place. And so that should meet a lot of people's needs, make it a popular floor plan, I would think. And Mr. Rulins has noted that number 2 on our agenda for the front yard setback is been satisfied. So we're looking at number 1 on the list. And so with that, I move that we go ahead and approve the variance for calendar number 22-066.
Member Brown, I second.
All right, Ms. Brown with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Calendar 22-066 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and after that, we will send the appellant a letter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have a good week.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Moving on to calendar number 22-067, 2147 West 47th Street. Cleveland Bricks again. Owner proposes to erect a 2-story frame single-family residence with attached garage in a B1 2-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinance as stated in the agenda and the public record. Of note is number 2, also with regard, as the previous case, that city planning approval is required before issuance of a building permit. And with that, to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address, please.
Yes, Paul Began, again, Began Architectural Design, 15703 Madison.
Byron Bonamici, Cleveland Bricks, 1925 St. Clair.
Anyone else?
Christopher Bender, 2145 West 47th Street.
Thank you. Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to state that the public notice went out with the address of 2147. So, however, the notices affected the same neighborhood, the same street. So I think that the right people were notified in this case. But just wanted to state for the record that there was an error in the public notice that went out.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's correct. The same people will get it because it was just a one number off. So the same neighbors would have gotten it that are, if I remember correctly, it's not a lot of houses on this street anyway. So, all right. Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the required rear yard regulation of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. We have the same spokesperson as the last case?
Yes, we do. Paul Began with Began Architectural Design here. Cleveland Bricks had asked me to take a look at this lot. This is probably in the Clark Metro neighborhood. Glad to see the development moving south of I-90 into this neighborhood for sure. This particular lot on West 47th is actually kind of a quarter lot. Ravine Court is to the back, are to along two sides of this particular parcel. It's not very big. It's pie shaped, and the intention, the only way really to kind of make this house work with a garage is to do an attached garage with the entrance to the garage coming off of Ravine Court off the back of the house. I think that rear yard setback, as you can see, just because of the shape of this particular lot and where it is in this neighborhood, you know, even if there was no garage associated with this house, my guess is that we would still get the same call that we don't have the appropriate rear yard setback for this particular house. So again, this was another project that was reviewed with the Housing Design Review Subcommittee and was approved as well there.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bonamici, do you have anything you want to add?
No, once again, I think Paul said it all.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bender?
No, other than I'm quite relieved that you're not talking about 2147 because we would have had other issues because you would have taken up my property on the other side of the street.
All right.
So thank you.
Good. All right. We aim to please here at the city. Okay. I'll open it up to my board for any questions.
Madam Chair, just want to state City Planning Commission approves this, is in support of this project. Again, well-designed house. This is truly a hardship. This is a difficult site here. And I think they did a great job of fitting this house on the site.
Thank you. I think I had in my brain that you spoke already, Maurice, because you've been the rep all day. So sorry for skipping you on that one. Go ahead.
I might also add that, and I probably shouldn't say this, but you probably could slide the house a little bit closer to West 47th on this one because the odd shape of this parcel would have probably allowed the board to grant that variance. But as it is, it's fine.
Well, actually, not that I was going to make that recommendation, but Maurice, I do believe this is like, you know, the best for this odd shaped lot, but I have a little concern about backing out onto Ravine Court, and I just would like for you all to speak to that if you had any concerns or why you feel it's safe.
Yeah, if you kind of take a look at it, Ravine Court is more
has no traffic.
It doesn't have a lot of traffic. It is more in alignment as that's where people's garages are off of.
Got it.
Right. So not a lot of front yards. There's not a sidewalk there.
And people don't use it as a cut through.
I'm sure it is used as a cut through. If you take a look at the aerial, you can see the sidewalk does go around the access road and West 47th. There is no sidewalk down Ravine Court. It's just a narrow alley there. And when I drove around there, I did not see any one-way signs. You know, my guess is really in order to enter this garage, you would need to come from the north going towards the south and Ravine Court anyways. I can't really see traffic, a whole lot of traffic going the other direction myself. So,
All right. Thank you for those comments. I appreciate it.
Madam Chair, I have to say I had the exact same thought, but looking at the aerial and driving out there, it looks like it's a really seldom used alley. I don't think there's a lot of traffic on that alley at all. If it was a heavily trafficked alley, it might have been a little bit of a different situation.
Okay, any other questions, board? All right, I entertain a motion.
All right. Madam Chair, given the testimony that we've heard from Mr. Beacon today and from the support from City Planning, the multi-talented Mr. Rulins, who's wearing many hats today, and clearly a very challenging lot on which to place a home, and another, I think, pleasing design similar to the previous one that should allow for aging in place and many years of home ownership there. I move that we go ahead and approve the variance for calendar number 22-067.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Member Brown, I second.
Ms. Brown with the second. Go ahead, call the roll.
Ms. Barnes? Ms. Barnes, I can't hear you if you are speaking. All right, Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Calendar number 22-067 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and we will send the appellant a letter.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, board members. Appreciate it.
Madam Chair, if we can announce again that calendar number 22-053 it has been postponed to June 13th at the request of the councilman. Again, that is calendar number 22-053 regarding 1807 Auburn Avenue, Guardian City of Investments. So if there's anyone here for that, it's been postponed to June 13th.
All right, thank you. We're heading into old business. All right, so old business 1 through 7 and 11 without objection, board?
Without objection.
Without objection.
Without objection.
Thank you. We have a request for affirmation. They need more time to find a contractor. Yeah, I've heard that in the streets right now that it's hard to find one. So
Yes.
without objection, board?
Without objection.
Without objection. Totally
All right.
understandable.
Yes, and now we're here we have a request for rehearing for the Hessler and Ford projects. So before we start this, I know that parties from both are here. That these variances were approved, and that the developer has a right to proceed to get a permit on these. So requesting a rehearing will not postpone that for right now. So just want to put that on the record, as well as whatever new evidence that you like to present today, make sure it's the new evidence. We're not going to rehash the entire case. We just want to hear what your new evidence is, and please keep all personal comments out of what you're trying to present here. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ms. Kukla, who's here in regarding to this case.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe we have Mr. Baruch here as the property owner. We have definitely Ms. Saraki here. I believe we have Chuck Hoven as a neighbor. And Elise Yablonsky is here from UCI. And I think that's all that we have for this morning. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll hand it over to whoever requested the rehearing. You can go ahead to ask why you want to request the rehearing. And as I said, we don't need to rehash what happened in the case before. All that's on the record. Those variances have been approved. So just give us what you consider to be your new evidence.
Hello, this is Chuck Hoven. I'm a member of the Hessler Housing Cooperative. And the part of the reason for the variance being granted was that the Ford garage on Ford across the street from 1975, 1981 Ford is going to be knocked down this summer. And there are supposed to be 20 spaces in that garage reserved for this new development. And I don't know if you can, I'm going to start my video, but right now, if you look in my video, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars across the street in that lot. And that lot is used, and that's where the development is supposed to go. And the Ford garage has over 300 spaces in it. And when it's knocked down, it's going to be a surface lot, which would probably at the most have maybe 100 spaces. You see there's a ninth car coming in there now. But I mean, right now it's move week, so there's a lot of people on the street. But there's still cars there almost all the time. So if you build something there, our members, some of them have health issues, and with the garage knocked down, they may not be able to get a space in the surface lot, because going from 340 spaces down to 100 is going to really squeeze this neighborhood. So I think what we're saying is that if you build a 12-unit thing and you add parking, that's all going to compound the problem, but it shouldn't be allowed to be built now that there's no parking across the street that wouldn't displace other people. So if you give them 20 spaces, you're displacing other people that already park there, including people in the Commodore, which live right next door to that parking lot, and people on Hessler, which there's already not enough parking spaces. So you're talking about a major change here, and I think it bears. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jablonski from UCI, you want to respond about the parking garage?
Sure, absolutely. I can confirm that yes, the Ford Road garage is intended to be demolished this summer. We're still working through the plans of that, and that is a decision that was made post the hearing for the variances on the Ford Hessler project. We have been working directly with our monthly parkers and surrounding areas to identify alternative options for parking, because there will be a time where there is zero parking on that site. And we have successfully identified more than enough spaces between lots that UCI already owns and that our partners own at Case Western Reserve University, and are actually getting ready to send out those options later today. We needed to work on a few things to confirm them, but again, have identified more than enough options in the interim. And what Mr. Baruch can further testify to, as we shared with Ms. Kukla, is that there would not be a scenario where there is not parking available on the site before the construction is finished. So although we are still very much in the active phases of figuring out the demolition specifications and schedule, and so can't confirm those exactly at this time. What we do know is, given the relative timelines of the demolition and construction of a surface parking lot and Mr. Baruch's development progress, that there would not be a scenario where there is not parking at the site while there is a development opening. So I can further clarify anything, or if Russell, you'd like to, share anything.
Thank you. So essentially, even due to the parking garage being demolished, that the parking spaces that you all have an agreement with the project will still exist.
That will still be honored at that site, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Did I interject again?
Mr. Hovind, we have other people we need to speak to first, and then I'll come back to you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Liz, you said the landowner was here?
I'm right.
Yes, Mr. Baruch.
Mr. Baruch, you're here?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Well, mainly I'm here to answer questions if we have them. But I suppose I'll, in the interim, offer this. One, per the video that Mr. Hovind just showed, it's interesting. Our lot is mostly empty most of the time. It's student move in and move out, so maybe it's a little busier or something else. But the other point is, at least Jablonski's right. There is no circumstance under which the new building would be open and complete prior to fall of 2023, well after their lot is ready. So I don't see an issue from my standpoint.
All right, thank you. We just need a confirmation on the record that what was approved in the variance was still going to happen. And it seems like that is the case. Is Ms. Saraki?
Yeah,
Is that how you say
hi.
your name?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I'm puzzled. I don't understand how. So what I heard on December 13th when the variances were approved is that according to the BZA, the Councilman Blaine Griffin, Director Freddie Collier, even Russell Baruch's assistant, and UCI Debbie Berry, they all said that the variances, that the parking agreement in the purchase agreement for the 20 spaces would alleviate the parking concerns, and they assured all of the Hessler residents there would be plenty of space for Hessler residents and Baruch's new tenants, Mr. Baruch's new tenants. So the variances hinged on that agreement in the parking garage. The agreement also stated that as long as UCI owned the property, that would be those spaces would be available. But after that, there's no guarantees. So I'm just confused because it's this seems like an issue between the Hessler Housing Cooperative and the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm puzzled why. Basically, all it is the circumstances under which the variances were granted on December 13th have significantly changed. And while I don't completely understand Alicia Blonsky and Mr. Baruch's explanation about the lot, it sounds like there's no guarantee that there are going to be those parking spaces. And so I'm just asking the BZA to re-examine and rehear everything. I mean, they're saying that there's going to be available spaces, but do we know how far away those spaces are going to be? Are they going to meet code? That's for the BZA to decide, and to protect us who've been on Hessler and the residents in the Commodore who use the garage. So is that clear? Am I being clear? I don't know if you can understand. I guess I'm confused about how Miss Alicia Blonsky's explanation it fulfills the terms of the variances when the variances hinged on that parking garage.
Yeah, the variances that we granted were that the tenants of the new development would have those extra spaces that were guaranteed by UCI in that garage. Now, the garage is being demolished, so that will diminish the amount of parking spaces that are available in that garage. But as Ms. Jablonski just said, that there will still be those spaces that were promised to Mr. Baruch's project. So that was the agreement of the variances, was that the parking spaces from the garage would be guaranteed to that development. So as far as we know right now, that's being honored.
But Madam Chair, if I may, that's only as long as UCI owns that lot. And as you may or may not have read in the media, the future of that lot is uncertain now. I believe they may be looking for a buyer. So where the parking garage is. So there's no guarantees. I mean, it's completely uncertain.
I understand your trepidation there, but that was not in the variance agreement about later on who was going to own the parking garage. We did not rule on that, on who was going to own the parking garage later. So Ms. Jablonski, I don't know if you want to come in and try to clarify what's going on with the parking garage as well.
Well, the site, we own the site. We are working to demolish the garage and operate the surface parking lot. Though I understand it's not necessarily for the BZA to adjudicate, I can share that we, again, directly with residents and staff, and in identifying the alternative parking locations, there are 3 main ones, and they are within a 5 and 6 minute walk of the garage site. So, for an urban district, proximate, which we were glad to be able to do. And so to the point of being concerned, although we understand, obviously it's a huge impact to have the garage come offline, we are able to absorb it with our current, parking assets. And we'll be in the process of doing so as we work toward the closure on June 30th. So, and again, we will be able to honor the 20 spaces at that site. And that site will have parking on it prior to the development being complete.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Brown?
I'd like to ask about the garage, and I heard that I think it was 20 spaces. Okay, will be committed at the surface parking where the former garage was. I'd like to ask, you had other commitments to parkers, for parking spaces, other contracts or agreements. Are all of those going to be how do I ask this question? How about number 1? How many surface spaces are you going to have once the demolition is completed?
So I don't have that number right now because, again, we're still doing the geotechnical work to develop the specs for the actual demolition and then have the, full site plan for the surface parking lot, but approximately somewhere in the range of, 70, 75. So it will be, obviously a surface lot compared to a multi-story garage, it will be less.
Sure.
But again, and to your point, you're correct. We had other agreements in the garage that we've had to negotiate as we've moved forward with these demolition, and we've been able to successfully do so off-site from the Ford Road garage, because regardless, there will be a time where there's 0 parking there, and we need, to identify alternatives during that time. So beyond, it's beyond the Baruch, agreement for that site. There's no firm commitment with others, based on people coming back from the alternatives that they will be moved to later on this summer. But we've been able to identify those alternatives. In some cases, preferred alternatives for some of the parkers.
Yeah, but Madam Chair, if I may, This is Laura Saraki.
Go ahead, Laura.
Isn't that for the BZA to decide if those parking agreements are suitable and meet the code? I mean,
No, Laura, we don't go beyond. We rule on the project that was in front of us at the time, and the variance was that that UCI and Mr. Baruch had an agreement for those parking spaces. And what we're hearing today is that those parking spaces will be honored in the surface lot. We do not, our BZA, we don't have the tentacles to go throughout and check other people's parking and what other agreements were. We had to look at what was going to be addressed at the project at hand, and that's this one project. We don't go about into other projects that were not before us. So do you understand that?
I do, although there were numerous residents there, and not even all of them, who have permits in that garage, residential permits, and they
I
were all
understand
told
that, but
that there would.
That's for you. That's for the residents and UCI to work out. And it seems like Ms. Jablonski and UCI are trying to work that out with the residents. That is outside of our purview at BZA.
Madam Chair, may I interject? Law, I believe, says that the parking spaces have to be within, I believe it's 1,000 feet. And I think that's in your purview to review. And if there
whose parking spaces, was it parking spaces for the Hessler project or other people's parking spaces?
Any variance on any development in Cleveland required?
That was not before us. I need you all to understand that we ruled on the one case for Hessler, and we ruled on it and approved that variance. And so now we're hearing other new information, but we cannot rule on other projects that have happened. That's outside of our purview. We are only looking at your one project right now.
I'm just asking to rule on this project, which is directly across the street. That's why it was allowed to have a variance, because it was within a certain amount of feet of the development. If the new parking that you're proposing is not within a certain amount of feet, then it doesn't qualify under the variance that you granted. So,
but we just heard testimony that that is not the case, that those spaces will still be honored.
Here, I'd ask their opinion on it right now.
I'm sorry, what, sir?
I would like your legal advisor to offer their opinion right now on what the city law says in this case, in terms of the distance the parking has to be from
Mr. Hoven, we're not going to turn this into, as I said before, we're not going to rehash things. So
thank you.
What we need to do is we got all the evidence from each side right now. And so what we're going to do is talk as a board to find out if this requires a rehearing or not. And if you do get a rehearing, that's when we will have a rehearing and all this will be brought back up. But right now, this is just to hear evidence of whether we want to hear a rehearing or not. So,
okay.
So thank you for your
Madam Chair.
side.
Evidence.
Madam Chair, this is Liz.
Yes, Liz.
I think the neighbor is referring to section 349.05, which states that accessory off-street parking facility shall be located on the same lot as the use for which it is provided, or on a lot within 400 feet of the nearest boundary of the lot upon which use is located, measured by a straight line. And then it goes
I'm
on
not
to talk
denying
about
any of that. It's just we're not going to rehear the case right now. We're just listening to hear if we're going to have a rehearing. So,
right, but I just wanted to clarify that that is only if that parking lot is within the same ownership, and that if the a variance would not be needed in that case. So it's not something that the board has to take into account when they're reviewing it. They can, but it's not a requirement.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so board, we've heard both sides. My view is this, that that UCI and Mr. Baruch have shown us that the parking agreement is still in place and will still be honored. However, they do have a month left on their variance to pull the permits and to get everything done. So if for any reason that does not happen and they have to come back to us for affirmation and or the variance expires, that, you know, the process will start all over again. So I think in a way that we will hear this information, other information, regardless if they don't get their permit pulled and the project does not begin before the variance expires in about a month. So I will put it out to you to make a motion to whether we rehear this case or not.
Madam Chair, before the motion, there's just one other point that's not clear to me.
Okay.
So on the new information, not rehashing, but as UCI commits that the spaces will be available, I accept that. But they also say that they haven't gone through the full plan, and I just asked UCI. It seems to me that there were other commitments for parking that UCI made for, you know, from the Ford Road garage for other projects as they were being built through the years. And I think they need to have a full plan for the spaces that are related to variances, it seems to me. And I didn't hear that. So I'm just bringing that up as a question to UCI as they make sure that they commit to these 20, because it's these 20 that we're relying on. But I think this board has seen other agreements related to the Ford Road garage. Is that not true, Ms. Yablonsky?
So I am not sure. Again, we've worked with all that have agreements regarding the Ford Road garage. I am unclear how many of those might have required variances. So, but I'm happy to, work with Ms. Kukla if there are others in the record to directly address.
The one, okay. And that's.
And if there's a project in particular.
Well, I can't raise it now because that's not what's before
Sure,
us.
I understand, but we're happy to have that conversation.
meeting.
Make sure that that's all clear.
Okay, Madam Chair, that's all I wanted to raise.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brown. All right, I'll entertain a motion about rehearing.
Madam Chair, we've heard testimony from both sides today. And we know that the variance is that was originally passed has a time limitation left on it. From statements that we've heard today, it is apparent that UCI and the project owner are working to fulfill the obligation that the 20 parking spaces that were agreed upon in the parking structure will be honored in the new surface lot. And the surface lot should be erected before the project reaches a completion date and the parking spaces are needed. We're sensitive to the residents' needs. It appears that UCI is doing their due diligence in seeking contingent parking arrangements. And so for that and the statement you made, Madam Chair, with regard to the fact that they do need to, the project needs to be able to pull permits within the time left on their variance, or they return to us anyway, I move that we do not honor the request for the rehearing at this particular time.
Can I have a second, please?
Second, Ms. Barnes.
Ms. Barnes with the second. Go ahead, call the roll, Ms. Kukla.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Barnes?
Ms. Barnes, yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Britt.
Yes.
The request for rehearing is denied. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, that concludes everything on the agenda today. And we're back next week, right, Liz? I got on my dates messed up in my head here, but
Yes, yeah.
all right. All right. And I will see you guys next week. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks to
Thanks, everyone.
Maurice. Thanks, Maurice, for
Thank you.
Thank
wearing
you.
a lot of hats today.
Oh, Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce our, if everybody's gone, I might